My oldest played at Dirt Dogs for 2 summers, and they were all over different places, different fields, but it's a good indoor facility.
She's doing great. She got into a friggin' slump at the end of the year this year.
Oh, hi, how you feeling?
Oh, thanks. A little bit better. Still got congestion
I know, it's been,
going around.
yeah, Mike's a good hitting coach.
It's very good. I can't believe in like 6 weeks he's not debated.
He puts a lot of work in.
He's very
Good about it.
There's a lot of kids still there. That's
Oh, I guess we're on now. Okay, so, well, good evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. Call it to order. First item on our agenda is the review and approval of minutes.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes of October 10th, October 16th, October 23rd, and October 24th.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to confirm future meeting dates now. We're going to meet again on December 11th and the 27th, and based on the board schedule, we're looking at the 2nd and 4th Mondays, and the January dates would be January 8th and 22nd. Does that work
Those
for
are good for
everyone?
me.
Yeah, I looked
All
at
right,
them.
I just want to check the 22nd. Definitely fine on the 8th. 22nd should be right. If it's a problem, I'll get to Emily right away. but I
Yeah,
think
no
it'll be all right.
worries. We've got plenty of time. That's great. Okay, citizen speak. Do we have anyone here for citizen speak? Come on up, Dominique.
Hi,
Good evening.
I'm Dominique Thomas. I'm at 106 Blue Hills Parkway, and I'm the ambassador for Project Through 51, who encourages service in 8th graders. So I started my term in January of this year, and before my term comes to an end this December, I have one last service project to do. It's a food drive, and it's at 106 Blue Hills Parkway on Saturday, December 2nd, from 8 to 10 a.m., and it's just collecting any goods to donate to the Milton Food Pantry, because I know around the holidays there are some people in Milton who are less fortunate, and I want to help them out.
That's great. Well, normally we don't comment at Citizen Speak, but since it's a school night for you, and we probably should talk about the great things that you're doing now. Thanks so much. What got you to do this?
I was nominated by my guidance counselor, Ms. McCurtain, at Pierce, and that's when I started. I started in January. We had a launch day, where we went to Faneuil Hall, and it was a day of service. We went out to different sites to serve, and then my years gone by, I've done many service projects since then.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you giving back to the community. It's great to see young people, and there's so many just like you across the town that are doing different projects like this to help the less fortunate in our town, and to help those needy people. And it really is a nice bright spot around the holiday for you to do a project like this. So I'm sure we can help in some capacity. I'm sure we can help get the word out through social media, through Town Hall and the town website and each of our own web pages. And you said again it's on December 2nd from 8 to 10 a.m.?
Yes.
Good. Well, we'll all try to make it.
Specify like certain types, what you'd like, and that way we'll...
Anything from canned goods to cake mix and around that.
So dry goods, canned
Dry
goods,
goods,
things like that, things non-perishables.
That's great.
Okay. Only come if you have a truckload? Okay.
Thank you.
Dominic, you've been a great tribute to the Milton Public Schools, I think. You've been a great example and a great representative for Milton, so we thank you for all that you've done and all of your work. Excellent job.
We look forward to seeing you. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Good luck.
And Dominique, thank you. Anybody else for Citizen Speak this evening? Okay, item number 5 is a conference with our audit committee, Powers and Sullivan. We have Kathleen White, the chair of our audit committee, along with Richard Sullivan from Powers and Sullivan. They're going to join us now. Good evening, guys. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good evening.
How are you? How you doing?
We actually have one of our newest members of the audit committee, Brian Burns, is also here.
Brian, would you like to join us? Yeah, come on up.
Thanks.
Don't recognize you without the helmet on.
It's great. Thanks for giving your time to help us out.
Brian.
How's it going? All good. Good Thanksgiving?
As long as I'm in the hospital, sounds good.
You good, yeah?
just take a moment just to...
Yeah, no, we're good. Yep.
Oh, we're good, okay. Okay. Well, good evening, and thanks again for coming in.
Sure. I'll maybe lay the groundwork. We met with Richard Sullivan of Powers & Sullivan, after the audit was complete for the June 2017 year end. If you recall, this year we went through and did a request for proposal, re-upped again with Powers & Sullivan. We did meet when we met in September, early October. We met the new engagement partner who will be picking up next year, and we thought that was a good thing. We didn't need to wholesale switch firms, but we did think a new, fresh look from new partner transition would make sense. So we did that in our year-end meeting, transition meeting, and that was all very good. I think Richard's going to bring us through all the details not all the details, the highlights of the financial statements. And I think we spent a fair amount of time on management letter comments, which is one thing the audit committee is charged with doing. And there has been an evolution on the historic ones that have tended to linger, getting close to wrapping those historic ones up, and also new one that came up this year that we'll hopefully get some resolution on that.
Okay. All right, what I wanted to do is basically, I've just got a few notes. I just wanted to give you an idea of how the process went, also what we actually did. I'd like to talk about some things that you should know about in the report that may be different than last year or are significant enough that they raised to another level that you want to be aware of it. And then, of course, any questions you might have along the way, feel free to ask. We pretty much had the same audit schedule for several years now. Amy does a very good job of closing the books fast. Now, in order so that we don't do all our work after year end, we do some work in May, usually beginning of May, take about 3 to 4 days there, and then we come in we came in on August 21st this year. Now, the only reason I'm calling out dates is that means we got the files probably at least 5 days before that. So that means the books were closed less than 45 days after year end. That's pretty significant.
That's great.
It doesn't happen with a lot of our clients. So I just wanted to kind of make note of that. In the preliminary work we do in May, we do everything that's not just specific to June 30th, meaning we look at the budget, we look at long-term debt. If we can do the OPEB liability, we do that. We do test of transactions, which is 4 cycles, 4 different things we test. We test payroll, we test cash disbursements, we test journal entries, and we test regular expenditures to vendors. The idea behind that is not necessarily to opine on internal control, but to get an idea of what the design is and if the design is working as it should, meaning you as board members have to be comfortable that the checks and balances that are supposed to be in place are in fact in place. So what do we audit? After we do all our preliminary work and all our testing, we basically, what I call hammer the balance sheet. We walk down the balance sheet. Cash and investments, including the retirement system, was like $167 million. Capital assets is $73 million. Your bonds payable, 9. Then you got your OPEB and your pension, which are 2 big elephants on the balance sheet. That was $59.4 million and $31.6 million. So what that does is we're basically trying to focus on what we think are the risk elements of this balance sheet, that if something was wrong, who would make a bad interpretation of these financial statements? And that's where we spend a lot of our time. There's some receivables smattered in there. There's some warrants payable cutoff testing that we do to make sure the expenditures are in the appropriate period. And we do all that, but this is where we focus a lot of our attention. Things to note. First of all, the auditor's report, which is really the only 2 pages we own in this whole report, is again an unqualified opinion, which is a clean opinion in layman's terms is the best you get. If you actually read this thing, you'll notice that we talk in negative assurance. We don't say anything's good, we just say there's nothing bad. So that's pretty much how the wording has to go. GASB 74 was implemented this year. And what that was is that was if you remember this GASB 68 was dealt with pension plans 3 years ago, where the entire liability or your proportionate share of the liability ended on the balance sheet. GASB 74 is setting the stage for that. And what it did is it basically said every single footnote disclosure that was part of GASB 68, we're going to do a very similar mirror of GASB, in GASB 74. So you've got sensitivity tables in there, you've got out-year tables in there, you've got a lot of analysis as to what they call the real money-weighted rate of return, what your target investments are, the asset allocations. All of these things are now in the footnotes, plus 3 or 4 other schedules of RSI in the back. in essence, GASB 74 added about 7 pages to your report. That's the big bang, I would say, for this year in terms of a change. As I mentioned, GASB 45 is still in play, but coming this year for FY18, you're going to implement what's called GASB 75. 74 and 75 go hand in hand. 74 is because you had the OPEB trust. 75 is going to say, you know, where I said it was a $59 million liability for OPEB, it's going to be like $132 million on your balance sheet, because what they're doing is they're taking away that little mathematics we did between what you should have paid in the ARC and what you didn't pay, and the difference would be added to the liability. That all comes off the table. GASB 45 goes out the door, and GASB 75 is now later. The pension liability is still there. I'm still not that worried about it from a standpoint of financing, because under Mass General Law, we have to make the pension payments. You're not unable to do so like Detroit, who doesn't make any pension payments. The difference between GASB 68 and GASB 75 is the issue of OPEB being a liability on the balance sheet is a local issue. I never see it migrating to the state, to be quite honest with you, because they're in the trillions or billions, I'm sure. It's a local issue, and that's one that doesn't require any funding whatsoever, even though you have started to, which I think is good. It's just going to put this back on the balance sheet and make it known that everybody out there that you've got a really $132 million problem, not just a $59 million problem. I'm not sure if it really makes a difference, because it's pretty significant, but that's the way it's going to go. You guys are a AAA community. I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but I want to stay on this for a second. This is not going to affect your rating. In my opinion, your retirement system is almost 79% funded. You've decided to take the shorter track and then push out the amount of time you could to do the total funding. Two things I think are happening in your favor. One is, like I said, everybody knows what the number is. It's just now it's going to be on the face of your financial statements. At 79% funded, that means you'll probably have a better chance of diverting that funding that's going in the pension plan into the OPEB plan when that turn comes. And the fact that you're actually doing something about it right now, I think is giving the rate agency some confidence that you're approaching the problem as best you can, and you have a plan down the road to attack it even harder later on. So I personally don't see any jeopardy in your AAA rating right now. I usually like to talk a little bit about debt, and the only thing about debt that I think you should know about this year is you had a refunding, a $6.8 million refunding. Over the next 10 years, that's going to save almost $1 million in debt service. You've had some refundings over the last few years. All I think it means people are paying attention to what they have to pay attention to, and if they can lower their debt with using a lower interest rate, you're taking advantage of it. Because, I mean, even with rates ticking up, it's still almost like free money out there from what I remember, 15, 20 years ago. A little bit about capital assets. You put in $6.8 million of new assets and infrastructure. This includes the enterprise funds. Enterprise funds was infrastructure and meters, about a little over $2 million. The big project for you guys was, I call it the Blue Hills Matt Square project. I really don't know what it is, but it was $2.7 million. And then you had a whole bunch of other things like computer equipment, police vehicles, DPW equipment, which made up the difference. You guys do a decent job of paying attention to both your infrastructure and also these other assets, meaning that your asset base is still fairly young. It's not getting old. I mean, I still remember when all the schools were being built, and that was something else. So I would call your asset base young, and you have a CIP plan, which I think is terrific, which means you're going to be paying attention to your debt service. Your debt service is actually very comfortable, just under 4% of your total expenditures. I wouldn't go lower than that. I keep it just try to keep it at a certain level, because what that means is as the out years fall off, you just add some more debt. That means you're still paying attention to keeping your assets young and new. Budgetarily for FY17, pretty much break even, $214,000 loss. What that means is to me, is that you actually did better than expected. You had budgeted about $2.4 million of free cash, and only a couple $100,000 of that was used. So that's a plus. The primary reason is that Revenue in pretty much every category of revenue came in higher than you anticipated in your budget. I think that's typical of this group. You don't try to force the budget from the top down. You go bottom up and bring the revenues in where you think they should be. Motor vehicle excise was, again, the biggest contributor with a $632,000 profit. And you also had turnbacks. That was only $342,000. Turnbacks are the difference between the appropriation and what you spent, which means that your budget was 99% right. That's not bad. So you're able to build up your free cash. You didn't have to use it. I call that a pretty darn good budget year. Unassigned fund balance. That is, it used to be called unreserved fund balance, but now it takes on a different animal. Unassigned fund balance also includes your 2 stab funds. That was $8.5 million at the end of FY17. In there was $3.8 million of the regular stab fund and another $783,000 of the capital stab. Overall, your unassigned fund balance equals 9% of expenditures, which is really, really strong. The closer you get to 10, that's why you're a AAA community. Even without the stabs, you're about 4.2%, which for the last 3 years has actually been the same thing every single year. FY16 and FY15 were all 4.2%. And as I said, debt service is 3.8% of your expenditures, which means it's not too low, it's not too high, it's manageable. The enterprise funds, they mirrored what they did in FY16. Water posted a gain of $828,000. That's versus about $900,000 in 16. And the sewer increased by $514,000. FY16 was $570. And I think it's just because of the way the rates are designed. They're designed to cover costs plus meet debt service, and they do. Pension, as I mentioned, had a really good year, $7.3 million uptick in its overall fund balance, and it's now funded at 78.52%, which is up from last year of 76.75%. That's a strong performance as pensions go, because we don't see a lot of those. Worcester County, I believe, is 42% funded, to give you an example. So it's very good. And the OPEB trust, it's there, it's getting money. There's $752,000 in there, which is better than nothing. And you add $153,000 to it this year. And again, the way the reports are now, GASB 74 has the whole fiduciary fund set up for the trust, different disclosures, but we don't have to beat that horse. So back to an overall, like how I would view this engagement. Again, you had an unmodified opinion, which is as good as it gets. I was very happy with the information we received, the accuracy of it, and the timeliness of it. One thing I will say that, and I've experienced this for several years now, is that when we come in, I would say for the most part, Amy has her team what I call audit ready. When we ask questions, we're given very, very timely answers. There's not a lot of waiting time. I mean, when you're getting information 2 hours after you ask the question, that's pretty good. And what we have to do as auditors, I'll tell you this right now, 80% of what we do, we're probably going to have to do every year. You have to walk down the balance sheet. You have to audit cash. You have to audit receivables. What we try to do, is throw a curveball in there. Ask a question we didn't ask last year. And the idea behind that is just to see how they react. Because if things are in order, if things are managed well, they're in the record keeping is good, the answer comes fairly quickly. If the answer doesn't come good or quickly, then you wonder what's going on. And that's the way it is. That's the way it's been for us the last couple of years. Finally, no internal control issues. We got some management letter stuff to talk about, but also no adjustments did we recommend be made to the books as a result of our audit, which to me means that whatever you're getting on a contemporaneous basis throughout the year, it's accurate and it's right, which is really what you want to have. That's the overall report. Can I just talk about the federal awards report? Then? Sure. Okay. The federal awards report, this will only take a minute. You have to have this because you expend more than $750,000 in federal awards. Last year you spent $2.2 million. I'm sorry, 2.5, which is almost the same as last year. We test one big grant. It's called the Special Education Cluster because it makes up more than 54% of your total federal expenditures. We do 3 things. We test for compliance with laws and regulations. We test for compliance with what we call the administration of a major grant, and we also test the CFIR itself, or the actual federal awards report, for its accuracy. 3 reports, 3 clean opinions, no findings, no question costs. The management letter is the final thing that we have, and this is really what we do own. In there are 5 comments from the prior year and 1 new comment. Just to sum up the 5 prior comments, we had recommended, and I'm reading this, we had recommended to implement the purchase order system that you purchased. That did not occur in FY17, or maybe it occurred in 1 or 2 departments, but my understanding is that by the end of FY18, the goal is to have the entire town on that system. So that's still open, but there's a process in place to take care of it. We recommend that procurement process be centralized. It wasn't actually resolved in FY17, but you hired a CPO who's now coming in and actually doing that work. So I actually I considered it resolved, because even though it was after year end, that means you've taken the action to do it, and like we're talking now on a federal awards report, you just can't, the budget's not always there. So I look at that one as being resolved. We recommended that the student activities have an audit, an outside audit. My understanding is the school did an inside audit, which is fine. What they recommend, or MASBO recommends, is every 3 years an independent outside auditor come in and do that. The intent is for the school to do this for FY18. We had a comment regarding the treasurer, and it was focusing on the payroll and vendor account. And what I'm here to share with you is I saw some progress in this area. It's not quite there yet, in my opinion. It's not quite there yet, and there's still some, I don't know what to say, discrepancy, uncertainty as if he's doing as much reconciliation as he should. But what I did was, I came in and I asked our access to every single bank account I could get throughout the entire year. And I flipped through them. And there's evidence to me that he's doing more work than he had been doing in the past. But there was one instance that we saw where a deposit wasn't recognized. So what it meant to me is that there's something not altogether there yet. So I couldn't resolve the point entirely, but I did know in the comment on the management letter, there had been some improvement. There's this crazy 2-page note that we have to have in there, and I'm just going to bring it up. It's related to the documentation of internal controls over federal grants. I've seen a working copy of some of this stuff, and what happened in 2016 was something called uniform guidance came into play. The term A133 left the terminology relative to federal programs, and uniform guidance came in. Uniform guidance requires that in some way, shape, or form, the administration and procedures, documented procedures over federal grant have to follow what they call the COSO system of documentation. It looks daunting, but it can be very simple. It can be as many as 2 to 3 pages. As long as you have good documentation as how you do it, why you do it, and what the internal controls are there for. Now, I'm not sure how long this comment's going to be in there, because I don't know anybody's been audited yet that has somebody, the feds have come in and asked for this document. But the potential is there. And if you don't have it, I can't tell you what the consequences will be, if any. But they're basically saying you need something in place. And it just can't be, I've tested your grants. I know the controls that are in place. They mimic a lot of the controls of the normal warrant process. And then you pay attention to what the person who gets the grant, monitors the grant, reports on the grant. All of those are good. It's just I don't think they're documented. And that's what this comment's all about. It's kind of like an ISO 9000. Dot your I's, cross your T's, and into there. The final comment was related to the retirement office. There's one report that you don't have, but it's called an 805 report. And what it is we have to do a report on the retirement system's proportionate share of how much belongs with Milton and then how much belongs to the Housing Authority. And what we do is we have to test the census, meaning like the people in the plan, is all their record keeping related to the personnel accurate? Have they been vetted correctly? Have they been, are they in the right slot of where they should be as a member of the retirement system? In this particular year, because it's a 2-year system, every 2 years we do a full vetting. We only had to look at people who were added to the system and people who retired from the system. And we could not get records relative to the school for people added to the system. Found out, which it's very unusual, is that those records weren't maintained in the retirement systems office. So that's what this write-up is all about. And in addition to that, with that comment, there was one other thing relative to the retirement system where members of the system can contribute up to, I forgot what percent. They can contribute a percentage of their payroll towards the retirement. There was no authorization deduction in any of the personnel files. It's just they're on, and it's going to be withheld. And that's not, we audit enough systems to know that's not how it's supposed to work. So that's why we wrote up the retirement system. that's about it.
Well, that's great. Richard, thanks. Again, before we take questions, I want to thank you for a thorough report as usual. I want to thank Kathleen and Brian for the work you're doing on the audit committee. We appreciate it. But most of all, I want to thank you for recognizing Amy Dexter and her staff, because she does do a tremendous job, and it's duly noted. So we're very fortunate that these controls are in place, and look forward to continuing to keep them stabilized.
They've gotten better. They get better every year, I think.
Good, good. I'll open it up now. Anybody have a question?
I do, in terms of some of the follow-up that we need to do. So some of these comments we need to do some follow-up on. I'm just wondering, on the reconciliation, has anyone talked with the treasurer, either management or through the audit process?
I did. We talked to him a lot about this. I actually shared the comment with him. And what I had done is I actually went back into the field when I looked at all those bank statements, because I wanted to see what was being done. And as I indicated, there was some evidence to me that looked like a lot of things were being done on a monthly basis. Now, this one incident, we said a deposit was missed. I can't tell you why, and which is why I didn't want to fully resolve the comment. But I did see, I said, Jim, I said, I'd like to see, tell me what you do. And then he opened up the drawer, and I had total access to the drawer, and I went through the payroll, the vendor, all the depository files, and I saw evidence that there was a reconciliation being done. Now, here's the key. In Zobrio, you can have a reconciling item, and if you don't pay attention to it, it looks like you tie out. So my thought process might be that at times when there's a reconciling item, he may not be addressing it right away. Because I do know that on a quarterly basis, and actually they're doing it monthly now, but on a quarterly basis, there's a full reconciliation between the treasurer and the town accountant. So the treasurer is responsible on a monthly basis to Zobrio for him, and then on a quarterly basis from the GL to Zobrio. And that's when this particular thing was caught, when the reconciliation, the town accountant noticed it and said, what is this? And it got missed.
Sobrio's the system they use?
Sobrio's is the cash system they use, yes, sorry.
Cash system, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad you had that follow-up, because it sounds like there was a lot of improvement there. I know that's been an ongoing issue in past years.
You know what? I'll tell you, auditing cash this time was better than last time.
Yeah.
And auditing last time was better than the time before that. So there is a little progress occurring.
It's a nice trend.
Now, on this COSO and the documentation of the internal controls, you noted no progress has been made. Is there something you recommend from other communities that you may be able to give us as
Yes, I can.
an example?
I'll send it to Amy. I actually came across a great document on the internet that can be used as a guide. But I will share this with you. Anybody who's been a member of MASBO, and I'm pretty sure all the business administrators, about 3 years ago, they put out an actual template on how to use this, and they gave it to everybody on a flash drive, one of their big conferences. So it's kind of known what needs to be done, and I've actually isolated it just to federal grants because it's just you don't have to have it across the town, but it basically says in order for uniform guidance to be fully in effect, you should have some type of framework for like they're referring to there.
Right, and that's fall. The federal government's very aggressive with that, way more than the state of was, as far as.
But I think to Richard's earlier point, it really is documenting the process, and the process does exist. So
Oh, yeah. Institutionally, you do the right thing.
It's really not a resources issue. Mike, is that your sense that we should be able to get this in place fairly quickly? Okay.
And honestly, just because of where most of the grants are, the school should probably be taking the lead on this, in my opinion.
Now, did you have any communication with the schools as part of this?
I went over the comment with them, and they basically acknowledged that nothing had been done.
Okay. All right.
Same with the retirement?
Retirement, I did not deal with him specifically. I did not deal with him directly, but what we do is we make sure that everybody gets the comment in front of them, so they know that we're not going to blindside them. In other words, we don't do...
Right, I get that, right.
So as far as any response, no, I didn't get any response on that.
So it sounds like we need to do some follow-up with the school department. All right, and then on the record retention, the retirement ops, this one did concern me. So I think this is something we should probably put on a tracker so that this board is following up maybe at a 3-month and then a 6-month interval to see where we're at on getting these
pretty
school
sure there's
files
some-
over to the
yeah.
retirement office.
Pretty sure
That was
some
referring to
changes
the
going
school
on, too,
files
so-
from the retirement office.
There's some changes going on in that office that, after you get the personnel down, we'll probably be able to begin the process of doing that.
Yeah, and we need the
Retirement
employee authorizations to be on file.
Yep.
So, I mean, Mike and Amy, that's something that we should be able to address fairly easily.
Has everything
quickly.
in it.
Okay.
Every
Yeah, we should
person
address that as soon as possible.
In the system.
in the system.
Right.
Yep.
I think the only other thing in there was the purchase order work, and our new chief procurement officer is working through that whole purchase
Right,
order
the centralization.
process with,
Yep.
with everyone, all the departments. So we expect to have that fully vetted and throughout the town by the end of the fiscal year.
And then, this last comment, this was just an informational comment, but it was your last point, Richard, about the GASB 75.
Yep.
Who in management would be responsible for that? Is that the town accountants?
Well, probably will take care of it, we'll be honest
Okay.
with you. What'll happen is, the actuaries are already on board. They know what they have to do. In fact, most of the information that came about with GASB 74, because you have the trust, all we're going to do is, in the back there, is in the footnote, it basically says, here's $132 million of your total liability. So we're going to basically just book that. So what'll happen is, we'll take the $132 million and put it on the front. The actuary will have to do, what he'll do his actual report every 2 years, and in between do a roll forward. And then they issue a report, which pretty much has all the disclosures in it. So what we usually do is, because honestly, this is stuff that we're really good at. You guys don't even come close to doing this on a regular basis. Amy knows fully what can be done, but as far as the compilation and getting it correctly presented, we basically take on that responsibility.
All right, that's great.
Good.
Because I think that in the past years, sometimes we've had 4 or 5 of these carrying forward year to year, and we're getting
going
better.
away,
So
right.
there's an evolution.
we're getting tighter on these
that
ones, right.
That they're improving. I was glad to see there was only one that was still unresolved from the prior year, but we want to make sure we're tracking these and we don't have the new one this year show up again next year.
Right.
And then one final question I have, Richard. Is there anything that you're seeing in your other communities, just in terms of OPEB funding? I know there's a handful of communities where they're much further ahead than we are.
Yes.
Most of them are in the same boat that we are. Maybe don't even
behind
have
us.
as much as built up.
I've seen some communities really take the bull by the horns, and we're talking the Wellesleys, the Brooklines, their Brookline might be at its arc by FY19, which is really amazing. I've got a lot of communities with a few $1 million out of the side. Even some regional school districts, but I've also had probably maybe at least 50% of the communities that don't have as much as you have, So it's a big array. I will tell you this, though, more and more cities and towns are establishing the trust and beginning the process. I had one establish a trust and put $25,000 in there. They just wanted to get it on the budget, so people are visible about it, The funding is different. Like some people, I'll tell you, some have said, we are going to take X percent of, we're going to put at least $350,000 in. We're going to build that in our budget. And if we have any extra free cash, like take 2% of free cash and throw some rest at it. Whereas I think what you guys are doing is you're looking at what you might have for free cash and then taking it and putting in, I don't want to say haphazard, but amounts that aren't uniform.
Designate, right.
Right, so that's the real plan that I was going to recommend one would be commit to an amount that's structurally in your budget, and then if you can, do more as opportunities arise.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think that's something we should look at, especially with the free cash that we have.
Because this isn't going away.
Right, it's not going away, and I think that if we make a commitment, and if we have some years where we can actually contribute a little bit more,
Right.
it's going to be far more beneficial for us. So,
I mean, our payments will jump once we fully fund the pension liability, but how many years away are we on that, Amy?
2025, I believe.
2025.
Pretty good.
So
But
we're,
it's still 7 years.
yeah, so
8
we've
years.
still got a ways to go before we can start the much bigger amount going into the OPEB fund. Okay, thank you.
well, that's great. Any questions, Richard?
Anything else any other red flags?
No, I'm going to miss you guys. I'm getting kicked off.
It's a rotation. You could
No,
be
it's
back.
fine, it's fine.
You could be.
It's fine. Craig will do you well. He's been with us for 19 years. He's a sharp guy. He'll do just fine.
Well, maybe down the road you'll rotate back on.
We've done it. We've done that before. Brookline. We did it with Brookline.
Oh, that's
On and
great.
off, on and off.
Well, thanks again for all your time, and we appreciate it, Richard. Thanks again.
Bye now.
Thanks,
Thanks for the
Kathy. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Wayne.
Good night, all. Okay, item number 6 is a quarterly report from Mary Ann Sullivan from the Council on Aging.
Right.
Good evening.
Marianne?
Hi, Mary Ann.
How are you?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. You like me to wait till Richard comes back, or just...
He said to start without him, so yeah, we can carry on.
So I'm pleased to be here tonight to present my quarterly report for the Council on Aging. There have been many things happening since I last reported to you. The highlights are, first of all, I wrote a grant to the Milton Women's Club. As you know, with the sale of their building, they had some funds available, and we tried to come up with a way where it would benefit the entire town. There's a program called Safety Net. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but it's most towns have it. It works in conjunction with the sheriff's office, and if somebody with cognitive impairments, be it an adult or a child, tends to wander, it's a bracelet. Police departments have these. They literally look like almost like drones, and they have 2 cars that go out, and they can track them, and it's had a 99% success rate. The system was really expensive, but working with Chief King, Deputy O'Neill, and Elder Affairs Officer Patty Mandeville, we wrote a really good grant, and we were funded for 2 of them, which was fabulous. We had a kickoff November 1st at the police station with members. We did a little press release. It got great coverage in the Times. Since then, we've had 10 people sign up, 8 adults and 2 children, which is wonderful. And just as I was leaving today, a woman whose mom lives in Milton, who was in early stage Alzheimer's, called from Pennsylvania to say that she had heard about it, so we're going to put her in touch with Officer Mandeville. So I think it's great that, it helps everyone in the town. It helps, people, unfortunately, who have Alzheimer's. It helps kids that might be autistic. And what it also does, it gives caregivers who are caring for them a little bit of peace of mind. So we're very, very grateful to the Women's Club for that. Our Veterans Appreciation Luncheon was attended by 92 veterans. It was a wonderful event. Special thanks to Mike and David for stopping by. It's our favorite event we do all year, but we couldn't do it without, and please bear with me, without some great, great people. So a great big shout out to Patrick and Brendan Newell, owner of Pat's Pizzas, for a delicious turkey dinner for the 16th year in a row. They'll call and they'll say, "You sure you have enough?" We had so much this year that we sent it down to the nuns at Fontbonne, who sent a thank you note that I shared with the Newell brothers, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing they do. Donnie Lopez, who owns Lopez the Florist, did beautiful patriotic centerpieces. Dermot Quinn, Green Hills Bakery, donated the cupcakes. Every veteran left with a gift certificate, a small thank you for their service. So we thank the merchants who contributed, the volunteers who helped, and the entire staff at the COA, from setting up the tables at 7 a.m. in the morning to the last dish at 2 p.m., 2 a.m., that wouldn't be good. They do it truly, because it just, you can't imagine how these veterans appreciate it. And Kevin Cook, I have to say, is such an asset to the town of Milton.
Sure is.
And having him at the Council on Aging, his remarks were so heartfelt, and I see it every day on a daily basis. They come in and he makes them feel welcome, and he makes them feel that their problems and concerns are the problems and concerns of, him and the veteran agencies that he deals with, so he does a great job. Plans are underway for the holiday festivities, hard to believe. The Milton High School Christmas Carolers will join us on December 5th for our holiday luncheon celebration. We're very grateful to Dawn Sykes. We have such talented students in this music program. And thanks to the generosity of the friends, there's no charge, but I know Dominique will be happy about this. We're asking for donations for the Milton Food Pantry. We also have a giving tree in the lobby. This supports children in the Milton area who receive help from QCAP. Seniors pick out an ornament, and then they get to buy a small gift for the child, and they really enjoy it. Our FY19 budget has been submitted. Other than step increases, we did not request additional funds. I know when it goes out, the guidelines guidelines said you could increase it by 3%. I'm one of these people who doesn't believe if you did okay with last year, do okay with this year. We're also fortunate to have the Friends of the Council on Aging. Maureen Conlon's Fit for Life Walk, she just gave me the final total, $21,665. And then the Copeland Family Foundation, I mean, every year they contribute to the van fund. So we're in a position where if we need a new vehicle or if we need, shades for the building or a new projector, we can go to this group. So I think it's wonderful that we don't have to put it in our budget and, we can make do with what we have. So that's been submitted. I've attached the monthly reports for the month of October, which again show a steady increase in residents using the services and attending programs. Our outreach team does a great job of spreading the word about how we can help. So that's basically it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have or comments regarding what we're doing over at the Senior Center.
So, yeah, thanks for the detailed report. It looks great, and congratulations. The events that you've run have been fabulous, and obviously you've got great partners in Kevin Cook and so many people that volunteer their time to the Council on Aging. But every time I've been in there recently, it's been a thriving operation. And
this Friday we have 114 people coming to hear Anthony Samaco talk about Jordan Marsh.
Great.
Yeah, so that was great.
And obviously the rides are really helping people out. There's no question about that. So I'm glad that that's really working out for everybody involved. Any questions from anyone?
I don't have any.
I'm all good. You all good?
Yeah.
Want to go home?
No, I want to talk about the tax program.
We still have that coming up now. Well,
Mary Ann failed to let everybody know that Milton Council on Aging now has a Twitter handle.
We do?
Yes, Milton COA1.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know who established it,
My
but we
grandson
used it
was
the other day.
home for college break, and I was like, he got a new phone. I said, oh, now can you send me tweets? And he's like, what? And I was like, no, what do you call those things? And he's like, text
Tweets.
messages? I'm like, yes, that would be it. So thank you for all your help, Michael. I told Michael when I retire, I'm going to learn a lot more about social media because I am the worst.
But she's very good at getting information to me that we can put out on social media.
The only thing I'm good about is putting it in the newspaper. I can, I don't know if any
Your
of you
newsletter's
saw-
good, though. You get
The
your
newsletter's
newsletter,
good.
yeah.
newsletter's great. We enjoy that. So.
If I had known that, if I could just take 2 seconds,
Sure.
that Keith Mills was going to be here last week, I would have come. He is without a doubt one of the most generous people in the town of Milton. You know who your friends are. He lives in the town, he makes his living in the town, and he gives back so much. About, I think it was 2009, we had a really, really cold winter, and he said, do you ever have seniors that have trouble paying heating bills? And I was like, well, we don't really ask financial information, but yes, it's difficult for a lot of them. Next thing I know, there was a check, and it said, get this to whoever needs it, to a senior who needs, and he wants no fanfare. So I just, wanted to put in the Milton Times, and they did, and he was embarrassed, he told me. But, I just think we have a lot of good people who do so much good behind the scenes, so we couldn't survive without them.
Yeah,
So
that's absolutely correct.
in the season of giving thanks, we're thankful for all of them.
No question. Well, keep up the great work. Obviously, everything seems to be going wonderful. We appreciate your
My
service.
tweet, whatever? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so seeing that there's no more questions on that, why don't we move along to approval of the Council on Aging Senior Tax Work-Off Program?
Okay, so this is the 10th year of the program. 25 slots were approved for 2017. This year, we only had 15 residents avail themselves of the program. My thoughts on this are that we changed 2 years ago. We went to the calendar year as opposed to the fiscal year. Now, I don't want you to think every senior in Milton is a snowbird and goes to Florida, but that's the only thing we can identify that might have impacted. So now, instead of starting on July 1st, and most of them got it done before the bad weather, it starts on January 1st. The 15 people who did it, Emily's been a great help with the town hall greeter. They really enjoy it. It's $750 off your tax bill. The guidelines, I think they're very lenient financially. They're very similar to other towns. Town departments are very cooperative. So I think this year, now that we're on social media, we'll try and get it out that way. Mike Lynch is going to do a program on it that we can talk to the seniors about it. If you approve it, it'll be in the January newsletter, and hopefully we can approve and get 25 people in the slots.
You may already do it, but do you guys do like a coffee hour at say, Home Inc. and also Fuller to talk about that as well?
Here's the problem. You have to be in your own home in order to be in the program, because if you're at Home Inc., your taxes aren't paid directly through you, and same thing at
Same as
Fuller.
Fuller.
Point,
Same
yep.
as Fuller.
So it would have to be,
so it's gotta be
like
in your-
Emily Martin living in her own home.
I
could
see.
do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
But I mean, some of the programs we have, they help in the school libraries, they help here at town halls, town hall greeters,
Right.
at the main library, a couple of people at the Council on Aging.
Just trying to think of ways that we could get the word out ourselves to try to help, so let's think about it. We'll put our heads together and try to help you out
I think
there.
it's a great program.
It's a great program, and
We had
I'd
a
like to
lady
see
call
full
me today,
capacity.
and she said, can you tell me about it? I said, well, I'm going before the selectmen tonight. Hopefully it will be approved. But people like it. Do you find that, Emily? When they come, they really enjoy doing it. And I think it's nice to come into town hall and have somebody say, good morning or good afternoon, how can I help you? So.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think that it'd be nice to get it to capacity. So I think it's just making sure that we're reaching all the people, and it's not for lack of effort. You guys have tried that. So I think but I think maybe some people out there listening tonight might have some other ideas.
Actually, the church bulletin said they'd be happy to put it in, so,
That's great,
they
too.
read, a lot of elderly read that,
I
so
think
hopefully
the
that'll be
more
good.
the more places that we're able to showcase it, it'd be good.
Can you make a motion? Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the 2018 Senior Tax Workout Program.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing that there isn't any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Mary Ann.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Aye.
Happy holidays if we don't see you anytime soon. Okay, item number 8, we have a conference with William Brokoff of Pope's Pond Bridge Proposal. Good evening, William.
Hey, starting where?
No, you don't have to.
Underdressed.
You were in a sweatshirt from a very famous place.
Yep. Hi, I met you guys. Well, I didn't meet you, but I'm familiar with your faces from my first town meeting, so that was an interesting experience. Very fun.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm excited for next year. So I live at 73 Dexter Street. I'm part of the neighborhood association there. I started a group called Friends of Pope's Pond to help steward that conservation area a bit. And I realized that area is the sort of the purview of the Conservation Commission. I've talked to them already, and I went to a meeting like over a month ago, and I waited through the whole meeting, and then they had a little health problem at the end of it, and so I couldn't speak. And then they rescheduled this last meeting, and so I already had this meeting slotted in proactively, so here I am anyway. I'm not trying to sort of go in the wrong order, but what I'm trying to do is build a bridge over the Pine Tree Brook at the south end of Pope's Pond, very much like the one that's currently at the north end of the pond. One of the things that, in working with the people that are involved with Friends of Pope's Pond and the other neighbors in the neighborhood, one of the things that just keeps coming up is how great it would be to be able to circumnavigate the pond on foot or on a bike or whatever. And currently, there are 2 properties at the southeast quadrant of the conservation land, if you want to call it that their land comes all the way down and touches the Pine Tree Brook. So it makes it impossible to, say, go all the way out to Canton Ave. You can't, without crossing their property. One of them is currently a vacant property owned by a developer.
Is it on Canton Ave at the corner of the Parkway?
Yeah.
Okay, I got that house.
I think it's 466, but don't quote me.
Yeah, it's been vacant for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
But either way, that property and the one next to it, their lots go all the way to the brook, which is anomalous compared to the rest of the conservation area. In any case, after thinking this through with a lot of people ad nauseum, we realized it might just be easier to put another bridge over the pond. So I talked to John Thompson about it, who happened to be here just after the last one was built, remembered one person that was on it. I tracked that person down, who's now an adult and has a job down south, in the southern part of Mass, and they put me in touch with the American Civil Engineer Society, and so I got in touch with the professor who's involved with that now, and the Northeastern students.
Northeastern, right? It was a Northeastern University.
They came back out, and they saw the thing, and they're real excited. So they want to help build the bridge, and the professor involved, Daniel Delaski, said that he thinks that he can get a lot of maybe even alumni financial support and possibly materials and machinery potentially from alumni. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm just saying I know money's an issue. So
That's great. The fact that you've gone this far, and taken these steps as a resident. I mean, I'd love to see Pope's Pond be accessible to all, and like Turner's Pond is, and a resource for the community over there. And I think that this is a nice step in the right direction. Obviously, you'll have to meet with the Conservation Commission and
Tomorrow.
Yep. Oh, good.
Hopefully.
Well, that would be great. So let's hope that that's possible. Yeah, that's right. And so from our perspective, any questions here from the board related to Mr. Brokoff's proposal and how we could help support it?
So this would, you want to go?
No, go
Katie.
ahead.
All right, so so this is going to access off the grassy area off of Sumner Street, cross the bridge up from Canton Avenue. So it's kind of overgrown now, so you'd have to clear, especially on the...
No,
it's wide open going
it's
across?
wide.
Yeah.
That beige area you see is currently called Peverly Park, and it's mowed.
Right, by the park department.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the gray area that you see is kind of the path that goes in.
Right.
And it's mowed really nice there, actually. So that would be very, very good access right there.
So this would create the access so that it would then be, what I always envisioned when we talked about, Pope's Pond and also Ice House and creating the ability for people to get around it and to be able to exercise, to walk, to enjoy nature, to see the birds and all the different things. And that's what's missing is that connection.
Yeah, so the path along the west side is pretty developed. It's quite nice and very wide, and the Parks Department is able to actually just mow it. They just drive their tractor right down it. It's that good. The east side is problematic. It's quite rugged.
Right. That's why kids like that. That's
Yeah, exactly.
attraction of kids, right?
And I think the natural response from some people is like, oh, we don't want any more people here. But actually, I think that a few more people there would be better. Get some eyes on it and get people keep it clean. And when I moved here, it was a mess. So we've been
I
working on
agree.
it.
It's an asset, and I think it's something that we need to look at. Like I use Turner's Pond as the example because of how much, footwork it gets for an average day, and people go down there, they feed the ducks, and it's just a nice place for the community and for families to congregate, and I see the same for Pope's Pond as well.
William, so it connects from the park on Summer Street over to, is that conservation land on the other side, or is that not conservation?
Everything inside of the houses is conservation land.
Okay, so that's why you have to get the Conservation Commission.
Right.
Okay. But it's not conservation on the right, it's not on the left, because that's parkland, is that right?
I thought
everything was Conservation Commission.
Because
Left is park, yeah.
I thought the left was because the park department cuts.
The left side is parkland, I
parkland.
believe, yeah, and the right side.
It's on the right of the bridge, the proposed bridge, but that's the conservation land.
Forgive me, but I thought it was all Conservation Commission.
The part on the left off of Sumner, that's the park you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
I think
clear.
that's an actual park, a town park. I think,
Okay.
am I right?
I thought so, too.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why some folks thought it was better to, at first I thought it would be better to have it a little, like towards the center of the park.
Yeah.
If you recall, there's a big rock in the middle of the park that says Peverly Park on it.
Right.
And I thought visually it might be cool to have it sort of in line with that. But some folks thought it would be better to put it in a little further, and it actually does make sense because it's the space between those people's land and the actual brook may only be feet.
Right.
You know, so pushing it in a little bit makes it clearly on public land.
Sure.
And there's also other issues there that the engineers at Northeastern they're willing to work on. Like there's some areas that wash out and flood that they're willing to talk about, and there's a ditch you have to get over up on the north side that they're also willing to help with. But for all intents and purposes, this is the big piece. And I might be getting ahead of myself, but given that Milton is the home of Buckminster Fuller, I thought Buckminster Bridge.
There you go. I like it. I like it. Well, let's now wait and see, and defer to the Conservation Commission for your meeting.
I really just wanted to introduce it to you.
Well, and I think, and we appreciate you coming in, William, and introducing yourself to us, and thank you for the work you've done so far and the connections you've made at many levels, and it's something that we're all very interested in. So,
I'll let you know how it goes.
that's great, and thanks again for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, item number 9 on our agenda is a conference with Hillary Waite, our new environmental coordinator.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Hillary.
Good evening, Hillary.
Welcome, Hillary.
Thank you.
So we took this opportunity, I think, we have 3 new employees coming in. Hillary's the first. Just to introduce yourself to us and to the public, and tell us about your experience thus far.
Sure. Well, I've never been first in anything before, so forgive me. I'm a W. And Arlene knows how I feel. Yeah, my name is Hillary Waite. I'm the town's first environmental coordinator, which is very exciting. I just graduated from BU in May with a master's in environmental analysis and policy and energy and environment. It was a dual degree. While I was at BU, I was also a Madeiro scholar and the president of my sorority, which was very fun, very exciting. While I've been here, what I've been doing is putting a lot of things that I have done in work in the past together. So my job background, my first job was in regulatory compliance for a healthcare company. I was doing provider audits to make sure that the providers that worked for the company had up-to-date licensures, everything that they needed to be giving care to people legally. And then from there, I moved on to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, which is where I got to put some of my education to work for the first time, and I did data recapture for EPA. So a lot of times you have a site that you give a grant to, and 10 years later down the road, you don't know what happened at that site. So I was in there doing the detective work, trying to figure out what did we learn, what happened at that site. Is it the way EPA measures achievements is in funds and jobs leveraged. So, are there any jobs created there? Is there any economic development created there because of the grant? Some of that. While I've been at Milton, I've kind of been spinning two big plates. I do our EPA NIPDES compliance, so that's our water quality and our stormwater permit, and our solid waste program, our trash program, making sure everything's working smoothly, going smoothly when there's a fire drill, whether real or metaphorical, at a facility that everybody's trash still gets to where it needs to be, and that's where I'm at.
It's great. We're very fortunate that we were able to fill these positions and to get qualified people like you, Hillary. Any challenges thus far that you see ahead of you?
I think for me, a big challenge is communicating with residents in a way that resonates with them. Because I understand me. I know in my head what makes sense and why clean water is great and important, and why stormwater is an important part of that. But getting the message down the line to people who don't spend every day with that NIPDES permit, and similarly with trash and recycling, getting the message down the line to why is it important for the individual to make a change when it feels
like a giant challenge to make any sort of change in the waste system. So working through that and really listening to people has been my strategy so far, getting in touch with residents, hearing what they have to say, hearing what messages are effective or would be effective and what doesn't work for them. Like, you know, if just because you say you have to pay the stormwater utility because we said so, it doesn't hit as well as, you know, to keep water quality clean so you can still go swimming in Cunningham Pond every year, stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah, a lot of very proactive work operationally and policy-wise from Hillary. A lot of the work that you see on the street going on with the trash trucks and the promotion of recycling in our town. Hillary submitted a very robust article to the Milton Times 2 weeks ago, almost a full-page article. So it was great. It's, again, just informing and educating the residency. Very good to work with. Just moved her office up from 629 Randolph Ave to here in the engineering department. But literally Wednesdays and Thursdays, I've kind of taken a lot of her time and tasked her with, you know, promoting recycling in town and making sure that operation, which a lot of people take for granted when they see the green trucks come down the street, Hillary is that person behind the curtain these days. So, yeah,
We
a lot of great
know how
work.
hard that can be sometimes.
That's right.
I did see that article in the Times. Is that something you think you might do on a fairly frequent basis?
I think so, yes.
Informative articles?
One of the ways we can make the town eligible for grants for Mass DEP to expand our recycling and trash programs is to publish information like that regularly. And so that's, to be proactive is certainly my strategy here, because if we're being reactive, it's just, you can't do it as quickly, you can't do it as effectively, and you can't reach as many people. And something they've been looking at in a lot of solid waste research is that you have to touch people 5 times with a media message before they hear it.
Yeah, you're right.
So you gotta move at least 5 times in the first place to get anybody to do anything.
So Quincy does a similar to her article. That every quarterly bill that comes out, there's a whole thing in there either about trash or water or recycling. And it's
A
like
message in the
on
bill.
a whole full page, like well done, full right in there every time.
Numbers are coming.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and it catches your eye. Like
That's right.
As soon as you look at it, you know what it is and what it's about, and it makes you pay attention to it.
Well, thank you, Hillary, for coming in, introducing yourself. Keep up the great work. It's you can tell you have a lot of energy and passion, and you know, I know you're going to make a difference in the town.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Hillary.
Nice to meet you.
Take care. You can go home.
And next, we have a very busy guy, Birch Amer, who's our new code enforcement officer. Welcome, Birch.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Hey, Birch.
Thanks for coming in.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, should I introduce myself? And
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing lately and what you see down the road as far as some potential, you know, some positive changes or pitfalls too.
okay. Well, I grew up in Milton for the most part. Went to all the schools, Cunningham, Pierce, and the high school, which I went to the 2 newer ones. Didn't have a chance to do that. My dad used to be a Methodist minister at Blue Hills Methodist Parkway,
wow.
food pantry. Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah. So, like, I used to wake up on a Saturday doing that, and I went to UMass Dartmouth, the new state law school, and after that, I started volunteering at Boston Housing Court, helping people in eviction proceedings. It was mostly tenants, trying to work out agreements, let them stay longer where they are, just work out like a payment plan. So there's usually people weren't on their best behavior because they're going to court, they don't know anything about court or evictions or anything like that. So I just did the best I could, try to listen, try to help them not take things personally. And after that, I started working at St. Francis House, a daytime shelter. Been doing that for about, like about 2 years, and I was in charge of placing people in sober housing, people on opioid epidemic, and the program was an employment program. It was 14 weeks. They paid for 14 weeks of sober housing, job training, resume, computer skills. My job was also interviewing people, see if they would be a good fit in the program, and then working with the sober housing, just because sometimes people would have relapses, seeing if they would give them a second chance or seeing where they were at. So again, like just dealing with sometimes difficult people, sometimes they lie to you, sometimes they get angry. It was everyone's fault but not themselves. And so then I thought I wanted to get more back into housing law, land law, that type of thing. So I thought it'd be a good fit to try and become like the code enforcement officer here. I saw the position open up, so I applied. So I've been working a lot with Joe Prondak. He's been a great building commissioner. He's been teaching me a lot. And also Michael's been, he's let me use his town vehicle, so I appreciate that, just driving around. And so I've been doing a lot of since I've gotten here, it's like I think October 10th, I sent out about close to 50 violation letters.
I can believe it.
They've mostly been unregistered vehicles and a lot of debris or junk on people's residences. Those are like 2/3 of the 50 letters. And some also like commercial vehicles, people parking overnight, people trying to do businesses out of their residences. And I've been able to like close out about 10 of those cases, people either cleaning up the debris or registering their cars, that type of thing, out of the 50.
That's great. So people have been proactive after you sent out notice. That's great to hear.
Yeah, they have been. I thought I'd get yelled at a lot more, but I haven't so far.
Not yet.
Yeah. So only a couple of times, but I was expecting a lot more than that. So I've been doing that, and Joe's been telling me he has some other things planned moving forward, looking at different issues in the town. He said he's going to get to me more involved this week and go and tell me more about that.
Well, this has been a long time coming, getting this position, and obviously it's great to have one of our own, too, who knows the town, the landscape of the town, and has a good feel for it. So it's not an easy job. We know that. But I know that a lot of residents were very excited once we were able to fill this position with a qualified candidate like yourself, and I think that this is going to be very helpful to us as we continue to move forward. I think it's going to make our town a lot better in terms of policy on how we handle, the stuff that you're following up on, whether it be cars that are unregistered or, upkeep of property. And I think it's nice for our town. I mean, we put a lot of pride into it, and it's clear you've put a lot of time into helping people. So it'd be nice if they help you out along the way, too.
Right.
Definitely.
It's definitely just like we see the pressure traffic puts on the police department, the DPW, the role you're filling is something that addresses quality of life issues that have just been kind of like, it's not a policing issue, it's not a building, it's an issue that has to be addressed, but it was like a flag being waved, like we have to deal with this, and I'm really happy that you're here doing this, and this will, let's hope your workload gets lighter.
We'll see.
I can see I'm not surprised by what you've sent out already at all, not even the slightest. So the only one dilemma I will tell you is that, and Joe will explain this to you, unlike Suffolk County, which has a housing court, Norfolk does not. So a lot of times in zoning issues, you run up in a criminal session on issues that it's just tough. It's too bad it didn't have its own session specifically for housing and zoning issues. It would really be a good thing for this county. But as far as this community, big asset. Good luck.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. The work you're doing, Birch, is very important. I just want to reiterate something that you and I talked about when I met you at Town Hall here a week or two ago, and that's one of the things that was identified through the process that led up to the creation of the master plan, but I also heard about it when I was campaigning and knocking on doors, and probably both of you have heard of it as well, the issue of absentee landlords. We have a number of them in town. And I think to the extent that we can start addressing some of those, that's going to be very important to quality of life issues, because it's something that a lot of people care about. And not only for the character of the town and the comfort of the neighborhood, but for the people who might be a tenant living in a say, two-family house where there's not an owner-occupied it's not an owner-occupied building. It's in some cases, it might be an owner who's out of state, who's really not paying too much attention, just renting the property out. So for the, the safety and the well-being of the people who are tenants of the property, but also the town, I think that's a real priority, too, that hopefully you'll be able to spend some time on, because that goes to quality of life as well.
I think his background in housing alone is going to really serve you very well in that, because you're going to see in everything from the absentee landlord who says to the family with 4 kids, come on in, and then says, oh, I gave the driveway to the first floor. These are the little things, these little quality of life things that you're going to be able to address that have been kind of like slipping through the cracks a little bit. There wasn't really an avenue to go, and this is going to make a big, big difference in that area.
Very good.
And as you go forward, whatever we can do to help you, just please do let us know, because I know we want
As
really want to
always,
see this succeed.
We really want this to succeed, and I know that you're already up to the task and you're doing a good job. So, Birch, thanks again for coming in and saying hello to us, and we're available anytime you need us. Okay.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Most welcome addition to the team. I mean, a real team player, always smiling, always out there. I think he put more miles on that little Corolla in a day than I put in my first 10 months here. But yeah, I mean, there's stacks of stuff to get through, and everyone that works with him on a daily basis. I got a call from a constituent today that understood the process. He was one of the 50 people that had been issued a citation and thought the process was thorough and fair, and just asked for a slight extension. And Birch was all over the case and knew what was going on, and handled it very civilly. And I think that goes a long way in this day and age. I heard it at my first town meeting in May how important this job was for that stuff that may have fallen through the cracks, and how important his job is to the quality of life issues, and no better man for it. So a very welcome addition to the team.
Thanks for coming in again, Birch.
Thanks a lot.
Trying to get you a new car.
See you soon. Okay, and batting third in the lineup is Arlen Zuniga, our new Chief Procurement Officer.
Hello.
Good evening, and welcome.
Good evening.
So I'm Arlene. It's Arlene, not Arlen. I am the first Chief Procurement Officer here. As far as my background goes, as far as education, I have Suffolk and Harvard behind me, and gladfully so. Glad to be done. I started out as a paralegal and was convinced I wanted to be a lawyer, and then 70-hour plus work weeks, I said no. Went on to financial planning, and then my last position was with the town of Brookline as a buyer. So that's what I did for a little over 4 years, actually close to 5, before seeing the position here. At Brookline, I was involved with the Massachusetts Association of Public Purchasing Officials. I am currently the treasurer there. As far as work that I've already done here, I think on my second or third day, I already had a bid on my desk. I have already put out about 3 or 4 different RFPs and bids in the past 2 months. I am actually meeting with Michael, Amy, and Paige tomorrow because I've put together a procurement manual, which hasn't existed. So I just want to put policy in place so that way across the town, everyone kind of can go to this manual if they do have any questions, and if I'm unavailable for whatever reason, they do have something they could, tangibly put their hands on and say, okay, well, this is how this should go, what the do's and the don'ts are in the procurement world. As far as purchase orders go, so I'm coming from Brookline where everything has already been put in place, and so a lot of my time there was kind of cleaning up things and finding holes. I really like finding holes and perfecting them in strange little ways. I took an instructional design class at Harvard that I think allows me to be able to approach training and procedures a little differently than just kind of the typical mundane. There's nothing fun about finance, but I think that there are ways that we can go about teaching and implementing that will allow people to kind of reach better understanding a little bit easier. And so as of now, I think I have about 6 or 7 departments, town departments that are already on board with purchase orders. So I would like to, I am trying to space them out enough so that I'm there to answer any questions if needed, and I'm there to provide the support. Support is obviously huge in something that's new and in any form of change. So yeah.
Arlene, this is again another position that was long overdue, and we appreciate. I love getting an employee from the town of Brookline. We have a lot of friends. Bill Collector, the town administrator, is a friend, and Melissa Goff, and a lot of them. And that's a very well-run town, and so it's a nice steal for us to get a person like you. And you sound like you're very committed, and wanting to find holes is a good thing. That means that you're deep in the ditches
Depends on
here.
what you ask.
But at the end of the day, it's going to provide fiscal responsibility and oversight, which is what we greatly need. And I think, the taxpayers at home will respect that we're looking now to save money, in big ways by doing this in a uniformed way. So, yeah, Michael, I think that you must be very happy.
I was thinking the same thing, like, the happiest guy in the room is sitting across from me.
Sitting right here, yeah. So,
And the amount of work that has been condensed and put together in the 2 months, it's amazing for a person that's here 20 hours a week. It's phenomenal, the stuff that's come through her desk. Today we talked with IT about getting a link to her department on the webpage for people. It's so important that purchasing or a procurement office have that capability, something that exists in other towns as a link on their website, but not on Milton's yet. So we're working on that. Anything you give Arlene, she does that and then comes back with 5 or 6 other things that she'd also been working on. So it's
have all the departments now started to, kind of get adapted and acclimated to this
each
process?
department has a subject matter expert. I think the Parks Department dropped the Kelly Field RFP on her desk with the street lighting stuff to verify when she first got here. So there's a lot of stuff landing on her desk, and I'm getting reports back from Charlie Caputo and Milton Police and other people how great she is to work with, and she's always either with Paige, myself, or Amy, and working on the next project. So
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think your work is just an extended reflection of what our auditors talked about tonight, dotting I's and crossing T's and streamlining your operation. It only makes sense. It makes, we want to work smarter, not harder. And I think you make it a lot easier. As someone who was a department head for 10 years, and for the 10 years before that, wrote almost all the RFPs and every one of them, and grants in the police department, I understand what you bring a lot to. It is a lot, so.
So like Birch and like Hillary, if you have, any need for help in any capacity from any one of us, we're happy to talk to you. And we'll be hearing more from Michael, I think, as we continue to move forward.
Is your office in Amy's office? Where does she work at?
yeah, right in the accounting office now. Yeah. So that was part of the big move when Consolidated Facilities went down to Randolph.
I just figured that because it goes hand in
Yeah,
hand with that.
and we're going to move her again. She's moving again soon to a larger office. There's a lot of
Did you know that?
files and documentation.
Oh, you knew?
The issue is, I think, that as of right now, there's just no area for me to, with purchase orders, I want to, I guess call me a little anal, but I mean, you have to keep records of everything.
Right.
And, as far as just general law goes, as far as IFBs, RFPs, and things like that, I want to make sure that, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I have everything in file. If the auditors were to come to me for whatever reason, on such and such date, where is this? I want to be able to go to a dedicated place and, not have to fumble or not have to get in contact with anyone else. I want to be that point person.
Who answers the question? This goes back to what, we weren't here. Were you here when the other auditors were here tonight? Yeah, they did quite a report before you arrived.
Right.
And that's kind of exactly what they talked about.
Right.
So you're right on target with what they want and what we want. So.
I'm coming from Brookline. They were always there, I felt, so I had to be prepared at any given time, so.
That's great. Well, we're lucky that we're getting your experience. So welcome aboard, and thanks again. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 12 on our list is approval of the firefighter education credits.
I'll make a motion to approve the amount of $87,033 for the FY 2018 Fire Department Education Incentives, which reflects the total of 1,732 college credits at $50.25 per credit.
Second.
Any discussion?
This has been an ongoing, is it a big jump from last year, or is it?
That's a very good question. I'll look into that. I'm not sure.
Same number of credits, I think they went up by like $1 or
Yeah.
something.
That was part of the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, it's very helpful nonetheless, so. Okay, any discussion?
All good.
Seeing that there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item number 13, approval of liquor license renewals. Okay, so we have approval by the ABCC to have Wharf Street Restaurant Group operate as Prime Pizza, but that's not been approved, so it's currently listed as Azul, and that's what the ABCC has on file. We also had the Hoosier Club, which is located on Central Avenue. They will not be renewing their liquor license for the 2018 year, as there is an anticipated sale of the property scheduled for December 5th, 2017. There was a letter sent from their Board of Governors to us, just received today. And I know we've talked about this. I think we talked about this at the town meeting, but
We did.
It's full disclosure, a member there, and it's a bummer that we're going to be losing one of our last community assets. And to the Milton Hoosick's credit, they've hosted lots of fundraisers, lots of school activities, even election.
Right, it was a polling place, yeah.
And social gatherings for people in the town. So while the club has to do what the club has to do, it's sad on many levels that we're not going to have that dedicated community asset like we once had at the Women's Club. So we have a couple motions ahead of us.
Do you mind making this, Richard? I don't know if I
Yeah,
can throw it
I
all.
will make that.
Having a
Katie,
coughing
I'll
attack.
get it.
All right, thank you. It's a long one.
Katie's been feeling under the weather, so she's bearing with us. She's been a
I want to
trooper
read
tonight.
fast, too.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the following 2018 liquor license renewals contingent upon the receipt of all necessary certificates required by Chapter 304, which are the acts of 2004, signed by the building inspector and the fire department, and those being American Legion Post 114, 123 Granite Avenue, Wallaston Golf Club 999 Randolph Avenue, Central Liquor Mart 26 Central Avenue, Delaney Liquors, Inc., doing business as East Milton Wine and Spirits, Incorporated, 368 Granite Avenue, Esprit de Vin, 25 Central Avenue. Milton Fuller Housing Corporation, 1399 Brush Hill Road, The Fruit Center, Inc., 10 Bassett Street, Milton Fuller Housing Corporation, 1372 Brush Hill Road, Wharf Street Restaurant Group, LLC, doing business as Azul Mexican Grill, 88 Wharf Street, Waltz Restaurant Management, LLC, doing business as Abbey Park, 550 Adamson Street, B&D Achiro, Inc., doing business as Achiro Sushi, 538A Adams Street, Milton Opus, LLC, doing business as Steel and Rye, 95 Elliott Street, Hojian Inc., doing business as Mr. Chan's, which is newly opened, 534 Adams Street, 556 Adams Street, LLC, doing business as Novara, 556 Adams Street, and Lombardi Enterprises, LLC, doing business as The Plate at Milton Marketplace.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's amazing. Who would have ever thought 10 years ago it was like...
Amazing. All in favor? Aye. Okay, item 14 is approval of Sunday opening permit requests. 4 retailers have applied for a Sunday opening permits to sell alcohol. Central Liquor Mart.
I'll read this motion as well to approve the 2018 annual Sunday opening permits for Delaney Liquors, Inc., doing business as East Milton Wine and Spirits, 368 Granite Avenue, Esprit de Vin, 25 Central Avenue, Central Liquor Mart, 26 Central Avenue, and the Fruit Center, Inc., 10 Bassett Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
15, we have approval for New Year's Eve extended hours.
To approve the request of Abbey Park at 550 Adams Street and Novara at 556 Adams Street to extend their hours of operations from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. on December 31st, 2017 into January 1st, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And number 16, we have an entertainment license renewal.
I'll propose a motion to approve the following 2018 entertainment license renewals. Milton Opus, doing business Steel and Rye, 95 Elliott Street. Welch Restaurant Management LLC, doing business as Abbey Park, 550 Adams Street. Wharf Street Restaurant Group LLC, doing business as Azul Mexican Grill, 88 Wharf Street. And 556 Adams Street LLC, doing business as Navara, 556 Adams Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Number 17 on our agenda is approval of Consolidated Facilities Director contract. Okay, so,
I'll make the motion, and if you want, we can talk.
yeah, we can talk about it, yep.
So I'll make a motion to approve. This is a 3-year contract between the town Consolidated Facilities Director, William Ritchie, beginning on July 1st, 2017, and ending on June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll open it up and just say that, you know, Bill Ritchie has been one of the most committed employees this town's seen in a number of years, balancing both schools and town, overseeing facilities. We're very lucky to have him. And, you know, this, he says, may very well be his last contract. It's a very fair contract. This board believes it's in line with what other facilities directors in other towns, you know, it's very similar to them, but also, you know, our town administrator, who's developed a very good working relationship with him, you know, really believes, and I don't want to speak for you, but that we're in very good hands here. We're very
It's
fortunate.
a negotiating process with Mr. Ritchie, myself, ATA HR Director Eppolito, and Glenn Pavlicek and Mary Gormley from the school department. As many of you know, Bill wears 2 hats and reports to both Superintendent Gormley and myself. Bill, as I will echo your words and sentiments, there's not a day that doesn't go by when Bill Ritchie's on speed dial about something that took place where he can fix it and at a much discounted price of contracting someone out, whether it's with his own 2 hands or someone that works for him, one of his craftsmen and specialized personnel. So a great town employee.
I can't say enough, you know, I agree. You know, I've worked with him in so many projects and so many, the man truly cares. He gives, you know, himself totally, and just, I'm very pleased that he's here for 3 more years.
I am as well. I agree.
Yeah, I think this is a win. I think contract, you know, it creates stability for us as we have lots of projects. As when he came in to give his quarterly report, we're doing more green stuff in town, and I think that, you know, we're going to accomplish a lot more under his leadership.
Yeah, he also sits on the Capital Improvement Committee. We met this morning with them again. Public Works presented some of their capital requests, and he's more often than not a go-to person when it comes to equipment and building maintenance and any type of interaction when it comes to capital investment. So he's a true asset, both operationally and from a capital perspective.
He did a great job after the winter of 14, the big one, the 100-inch winter, where we really, as a community, took a croak, you know, really hit hard. Our infrastructure, all the vehicles, everything was just so much damage, and he did a great job looking through everything, what we not just trying to replace aged equipment and damaged equipment that wasn't up to snuff then, but trying to make sure that we were ready to deal with something going into the future with, you know, a far more efficient and renewed fleet of equipment for our community. So I can't say enough about him. He's a good man.
Okay, so the motion has been made. Any further discussion?
No.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 18 is approval of the Payment in lieu of Taxes Committee recommendations. Last meeting, Michael Zulis, who was part of the negotiating team, came in and gave a presentation related to the policy, and there are several meetings with the nonprofits in town. We had discussed this as a board. We sat on this over the last couple of weeks to think about it, and before us we have a proposed motion now.
So I'll read. Go ahead, Katie. Yeah.
As I talked to, well, Mike and I had some emails. The 3 bullet points that are here in our proposed motion really are a part of the policy. I don't think we need to revote these again. We've already voted to approve this policy.
We have, yep.
It wasn't the request of the committee to recommend that we submit requests,
Draft a
pilot
letter and-
requests to the...
Is to draft a letter and to follow the policy as directed, to send out the bills that were agreed upon and unanimously voted
By the committee.
by the committee and suggested by the committee. So I think that's a different motion, correct? We have to rephrase that.
I'd be willing to do that in principle. I would want to see, as draft a letter, maybe that's something we can ask the committee to help us with, do a first draft of the letter.
I think that's a good idea. I think having that committee draft up a letter and send it through the board for our comments
Yes,
would be helpful.
I agree.
Yeah. I'll reach out to Mike Zulis or Matt Keswick on the part of the negotiating team.
Sure.
Kind of encapsulate what the process was and how they worked through the discussions with each of the three entities.
Yeah, and as we said the last time, these are partners of ours, these nonprofits. They do a lot in the community already, and we want this relationship to be a great, long-standing partnership where we're supporting them and they're supporting us because I think that there's a lot of value and a lot of common interests that we all share. But we just did raise water rates. We just did have an override, and I think it is incumbent upon us, and I think that this committee agreed and recommended that we go this direction because it's only fair that the taxpayers get some relief for what they've been, the burden that they've been passed on. So.
I agree. I think partnership is the key word, and I just want to see the letter before.
Sure.
Know whether, just see what they're.
I'm okay with
and have
that.
an opportunity to comment on the letter.
So do you want to not do this at all? What do you want to do? You want to wait?
No, I think what we'll do is we'll. I think to approve, I think we need to make a motion to approve.
So I'll stop it after the word recommendations. Is that all right, Kay? So I'll make a motion to approve the
and
bill
to
payment of the
include-
taxes committee. You want me to include all 1, 2, and 3?
No, because we've already voted those before.
Already voted on
I think
these.
you could stop it, at recommendations, but then maybe just conditional upon
Okay.
the board's review of a draft letter
Okay.
to the three institutions.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Milton Payment in lieu of taxes committee recommendations pending the approval of written documentation outlining the policy that we've got in place, pending
the
our review.
nonprofits.
Yeah, to the nonprofits. The 3 nonprofits we've discussed publicly with them.
Yes, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item number 20, we have a discussion on.
19.
I'm sorry, yep. Okay. Item number 21, boards and committees appointment, the Bicycle Advisory Committee.
Oh, you want to jump down? Okay. So I'll make a motion to appoint Vincent Urbanski of 22 Maryland Road to the Bicycle Advisory Committee to serve through May of 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 22, we have another board and committee appointment. It's the Town Government Study Committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint Richard Neely of 23 Russell Street, Leroy Walker of 452 Truman Parkway, John A. Cronin of 130 Wendell Park to the Town Government Study Committee to serve through November of 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we're looking for a fourth appointee to this committee?
Yes, we are looking for a fourth appointee that this board will appoint. So those who have experience in whether it be in a form of government or in any capacity, municipal capacity, that would be willing to submit an application, we'd be excited to see it. This committee has about a 2-year sunset, I believe.
Yes.
On it, but there's a lot of work to still be done on this committee.
Katie, didn't you sit on it? Didn't you sit on Town Government?
A few years ago, I
Yeah, a
did.
few years ago, right.
I think it would be great if we could get maybe a young town meeting member.
Yeah, I think that's what ideally, that would be great, because I think that, you want to have a bunch of different perspectives from different people on there, and I think that would be very helpful. So if anybody here has, some ideas of some people that might be interested, maybe you could have them submit some applications.
I agree.
Okay, item 23, Town Administrator's Report.
Can I just ask a question? Are we deferring number 19, which
that's
is
what I was going
the
with.
speed limit?
That was my question.
20, we were going to defer.
20 would
Yeah,
defer.
oh,
What about
I'm
19?
sorry, I skipped right over that. I missed it, I thought,
So it looked like it was in there. So
I missed it, I apologize. And you know what, I was going to talk about that totally missed that. Okay, so item number 19, as we circle back, is Article 15 of the May 2017 Annual Town Meeting, fundamental speed limit change. So I'd like to have a discussion on that. The town administrator and I talked about this several times, actually, and it's something that I actually helped push forward in that town meeting, and I know as a board we all agreed that cut-through traffic speed has been an issue in town, but where to actually locate it and how to do that has been the key question. I think that my opinion is that the Traffic Commission should take this up on their next agenda and discuss it. Ultimately, the Board of Selectmen will make the decision on this, the fundamental decision, but I think that, a couple options that they'll have before them are to either post at the town limits that this is a 25-mile-an-hour town unless posted, which means, your typical streets such as Canton Avenue, Brook Road, they'll always be 30 miles an hour. But neighborhoods would be, obviously 25 or less. School zones are school zones. Or if the Traffic Commission believed that posting in such areas, certain areas, made more sense, but that could be cost prohibitive doing that. So I'm curious to hear your comments.
I agree. Wasn't there a companion to this one that in school zones you can do 20 miles an hour and maybe...
They already are 20. They're already 20, so they're going to stay at 20.
Okay. I thought there was... So we don't need to consider...
Yeah, we don't have to consider school zones, no.
All right.
See, go ahead, Katie, finish.
No, I was just going to say if there were any reasonable example, we should have the Traffic Commission look at that as well.
I see Randolph just did the posting at the, as soon as you enter in.
As soon as you enter.
Yeah, fundamental speed law. And what that does, so the fundamental speed, it dropped it to 25 from 30. They did it town-wide. It's definitely more economical for us than changing.
Replacing every sign.
Maybe like so many hundred miles of just, it would be cost prohibitive. I agree with David. I'd want to hear what the Traffic Commission comes to. Is this a pass? Have we got AG's approval on this from the town meeting vote?
It didn't need it. I was misunderstood. It did not need it, but there was a commitment by the former board, I think, either at the warrant committee or at town meeting, to have the Traffic Commission vet this first.
I agree. I think, let them. They're looking at this all the time. It only makes it easier for us, I think. It's our subject matter expert. It'll just make it. But I'd definitely want to get this in place by the spring.
I know there's a lot of neighborhoods that have and people have called in and they're anxious about this, and I don't blame them. It's safety is always first. But I think we did go in front of the warrant committee, Michael and myself, and we promised them that we would vet this through the Traffic Commission. So I think that if getting this on, I believe that the January is the next meeting.
Yeah, they haven't picked a date yet, but it's going to be in January.
Getting it on the January agenda for them to discuss this and come back to us with a recommendation, and then we can move forward.
I think the reason they haven't taken it up yet is because we changed the composition.
Right, I get that right.
I think they wanted to have that fall into place and get the new members appointed.
Which makes a lot of sense.
That we were waiting for from the AG's office, and I
Is that one been
don't
approved by
believe
the
that's
AG?
been approved yet.
No, I meant
So John is still, Chief King is still the chair. But Chase has been attending, as he would anyhow.
I'm fine with that. I do think you'll see there'll be some streets where we're still going to have to post.
Right.
I think we're just going to have but I think probably the easiest way will be to go all the bridges, Randolph, it's a very clear, you can't miss it. It's very effective, very clear. Plus we have the message boards as well. We have a lot of ways to do it.
Good.
And to that point, we talked about this briefly. Tom McCarthy from the DPW is exploring a sign-making machine for the town.
Which is a good idea.
We don't contract this out, but rather you make your own signs.
Great, yeah. That was a benefit when we worked in the city of Boston, having that resource. It saved a lot of money.
Right. It'd be easy to fabricate those 25s where you need to.
Right.
Okay, great. So we're on the same page there. So, Michael, you'll follow that message. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Moving forward to the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thanks for having me. As we saw tonight, some very good talent now working for the town. 2 of those positions were funded through the override. The environmental coordinator was not. That was previously funded but unfilled. We are in the process. I haven't met Mr. Donald Baker yet, but Mr. Baker, who's a Milton resident, started today as the maintenance craftsman for Bill Ritchie's Consolidated Facilities Shop. Very qualified individual, member of the town. I look forward to meeting Mr. Baker tomorrow, but I just wanted to welcome Mr. Baker to the team. Another asset and another discounted cost to the taxpayers if we're doing stuff in-house that we ordinarily would have to contract out to people. So I appreciate that position, which was also funded by the override. Took a while to fill. Bill, due diligence, found the right person, and we welcome Mr. Baker to the town. Other news, another position that was funded through the override was the DPW mechanic. I've talked to many town administrators, and they're also having a problem in the master mechanic industry, locating businesses so good in the private sector. But happy to announce David Evans will be starting with the town at the DPW yard 2 weeks from tonight. A longtime employee at Stop and Shop over on Neponset Valley Parkway, where he fixed a lot of their delivery trucks for years and years. He's had some work with Sanders and basically all types of equipment. His pedigree is, he came in with a book of awards and certificates that was this thick. So yeah, look forward to Mr. Evans joining the team on December 11th. To that end, winter is coming. Snow and ice control, I mentioned it at a previous meeting, how frustrating it is from an operational perspective to have to make 50 different phone calls to supplement our town forces when it comes to snow. So we have reached a tentative agreement with Bosworth companies to provide some of the larger plowing equipment so that we can make one phone call. While they're doing that this year, they'll be looking into consolidating some of the routes and trying to do more with less. Bigger pieces of equipment that can negotiate, one pass through a street rather than a pickup truck having to do it 5 or 6 times. So happy to get them on board. Reached out to our neighbors in Boston. DPW grabbed me the other day. The last GIS flyover for the town of Milton was done in 2012. A company called Infotech. They happened to do the same flyover for Boston in 2011. It came to their attention that Boston might be looking to do it again. I reached out to members of the former BRA to find out if that's in fact happening. If so, could the town of Milton piggyback on that? It helps the GIS group over there update their records. And I guess 5 years is that threshold where additions and improvements and pervious and impervious can start to fluctuate. So we're piggybacking on theirs, just trying to get a date, when and if. It's a rumor that Boston's doing it, but we'd love to, while the flyover's here, just piggyback on that. Had a very good meeting with the warrant committee last Monday night. Myself, town accountant Amy Dexter, town treasurer Jim McAuliffe, Assessor Bob Bushway and Glenn Pavlicek, school committee members, Superintendent Gormley, where we basically just went to the warrant committee and explained how the finances in the town work behind the curtain. A lot of the stuff that Mr. Sullivan talked about here tonight, how we get to that AAA bond rating, how the numbers have settled where they are in the past, and just a precursor to the operations folks coming in to work with the subcommittees at the warrant committee to give them a little history on where the money's coming from and how to follow the balance sheet or budget, if you will, through the warrant as we head towards FY19. So that's about it, really.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's nothing.
It's another day. You guys have been very busy and active, and I'll tell you, going around town, talking to people, a lot of things have trended in a very positive way. I mean, you talked about recycling earlier tonight and how we're pushing that. That's great. People have grabbed me and said how the traffic calming has been tremendous. We have a meeting scheduled scheduled for Wednesday with Mass DOT.
That's right, yep.
On Randolph Ave. Great news that they have chosen to move up, prioritize from 2021 to 2019 to look at Randolph Ave and to change the landscape of how that operates. It's one of the most dangerous streets we know in the Commonwealth. Speed, cut through traffic, everything. It's been really bad. But with that all being said, you know, and you mentioned, Richard, the traffic, the message boards. A lot of different types of ways have been put into play here, and you know, I've noticed on Brook Road and Central Ave and Canton Ave, and it's just, I think residents appreciate that, you know, the little things, and it's gone a long way. Looking forward to attending the Fireman's Ball. It's always a great event this Friday night over at Florian Hall. They do a fabulous job, and it's a real tribute, and they always recognize past and present firefighters for what they do. Congratulate the Milton High School, lots of Milton High School. I don't want to leave anyone out, but first I want to make mention, just because I saw it, that Bridget Mitchell was extended a full scholarship to Providence to run cross country. So that never ends. This girls cross country and boys and girls track team continues to exceed expectations. It's I mean, they're a national level team. But congratulate the boys football team for beating Braintree in an exciting game. After last year, when I think Braintree stole all the plays, this was bittersweet for them. And you know, it was nice to see Coach Dembo get that win in front of a huge crowd, it's just nice to see that support out there for them. And now the winter sports are starting to take shape now. So you know, both the girls and boys hockey team and all the other great sports teams. So it's great. The town's doing well. You know, both academically and athletically. I noticed that you know, the scores were very high on the state level in the MCAS. That's a tribute to Mary Gormley and all the teachers that put a lot of time in. It's great. It's a great time to be living in this town, and real estate values are high, and if we could only get the Plains office, we'd be in good shape. So that's about it for me. Members' reports?
Speaking of the planes, we talked about this at the last meeting. I went to that RNEV study presentation back in mid-November, and one thing that was interesting was the MIT professor unexpectedly said, we're open to new ideas for the second phase. So there's only what they're proposing to test in the second phase that would impact Milton is a very limited curved approach that only currently it's used in New York, but for one airline, and it really probably wouldn't impact us too much. So I thought we should follow it up with a letter to him. I spoke for the board at that and said we need more meaningful relief in phase 2 than what they've currently proposed, but I think we should put something in writing and sign it and send it and submit it.
I agree. It's another opportunity for us to do that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I wanted, if everyone was agreeable to that, maybe we get that on for our next agenda. And then just wanted to announce the Master Plan Implementation Committee is having a follow-up meeting, a public meeting at the Council on Aging on Wednesday, December 6th at 7 o'clock. And this is about the Wharf Project and the zoning for Milton Village. So it's a follow-up to the joint meeting we had in mid-October, and the consultant has done a lot more work since then. And hopefully, if we're all able to go, maybe we can put up a notice of our meeting. But in any event, we're hoping to attract a large crowd, especially of abutters and residents in that area. And thirdly, I did follow up on the assignment I had from a couple of meetings ago, which was to talk with town council about the town administrator's contract extension. And had a little difficulty getting in touch with them, but I did recently speak with Andy Waugh, who is going to follow up. And so hopefully for our next agenda, we'll be able to put that on as an agenda item.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's funny you mentioned I was in Florida, and I flew in one of these A-20s, the JetBlue. It's actually one of the most modern planes I've ever flown in. It's but Southwest was pushing big down there, that they're now coming out with a new Boeing that's a quieter. I just noticed how funny that they said they're introducing a quieter airplane to the market.
Interesting.
That they use that word. I was like, you don't usually hear that very often, but I thought that was interesting that they said that. The only thing, I went to the opening tonight of the new PT Center at Milton Hospital, which 20 years ago was their emergency room.
was just, they were a little teen. And you look at their emergency room today, which is just, even the doctors that were there tonight talking, I just couldn't believe, like, we talked a lot about doctors who've been there for years, just how much it's changed. But going back to what you talked about, partnership, and I know that, pilot is a new thing for all of us, but it is a very, very critical thing having that hospital. I mean, I've worked with communities that don't have a hospital, and I just look at the dilemma that Mayor Koch's facing in his own city, next to a neighbor. They're the largest city in the Commonwealth that does not have a hospital. And that's a significant thing. So it was a very good thing tonight, another good thing for us, good thing for the community, good thing for health and welfare and patient care in our community. So I was very happy to go to that. That's it.
That's great. Okay. Citizen speak response. We already spoke to Dominique. That was a great opportunity for her to talk about the good things that she's doing on December 2nd at 8 a.m. Future agenda items. Town administrator's contract.
Yes, hopefully next meeting.
Getting a letter together for, in response.
To the RNF study, yes.
The RNF study, yep.
The pilot, and reviewing the letter on the pilot letter.
Reviewing the letter for the pilot, correct.
And what about another executive session for Governor Stoughton in the near future? Doesn't have to be next meeting, but soon.
Yeah, we need to, yep, so let's get
Yeah, I
that.
would say before January.
Before January, we have to,
My understanding
so-
that the PMS could happen that first week in January.
Okay,
So that would
let's
be
do that in one of the
either
December meetings.
11th or the 27th.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Can I ask a question on, there was a meeting tonight on this kiddo library,
Yes.
and I wanted, because Cohen conflicted with this, but it was suggested to me tonight that the intention is to try and sell that building. Have you heard this?
I've heard.
I had not heard that until today.
Christine Hodlin, who's I think she's the chair of the library
Yeah, the
trustees, but
library.
she came into the master plan meeting last week and said they're open to all options. They want to hear what the public might like to see done with that property, and they'd consider leasing it, they'd consider selling it. They're not, I don't think they have anything in mind. I think they want to hear what some ideas are for the property.
They want to get input, I think, and I think that they want fair market value if they were to sell. I don't know that,
Could they sell that?
That's what I don't know.
Restrictions in I think there's some restrictions there.
Could be restrictions
Yeah,
because it was
further
gifted
Yeah.
to the town by Nathaniel Kidder. And it was interesting to find out that Nathaniel Kidder he did a lot of programming back in the day, years and years ago, in the early 1900s, where he actually
all read
had
the same letter today.
Yeah, he had his own building where he actually put on programming for over 18 years for kids. So one of the things that, and I really credit the Substance Abuse Coalition is, and I think we've all talked about it here on a number of times, is a teen center. And so I think that it's worth looking into whether it's a viable location, because I think that we all agree and we all want to try to find ways to get our kids more active in an environment where it's safe, and where they can thrive and connect and stay out of trouble. I think that it's long overdue in this town. So that's I'm sure going to be one of the discussion points, whether that's a feasible location. And you don't get buildings very often. I know one of the things that I had mentioned, just because you don't have many assets that you can do things, and I had mentioned Yulin Rink for the off-ice times when there isn't ice is another option. It doesn't mean you can't have a couple, which is great, but that wouldn't be a year-round facility, whereas the Kidder Library could be. So I know that we'll probably have discussions moving forward with the Parks Department and others to examine this, and I think that I give Christine and the library trustees a lot of credit for having some open forums and to getting more ideas and having some good debate on what potentially that facility could be utilized for.
I agree. I think that, particularly in the teen idea, and that was a letter that we all got today, is that, we're at a time right now where the health and well-being of the children of our future, it's not so much the kid that's in the high school today or the kid that's in college. It's the kid that's just starting preschool. It's the kid that's going to use these new playgrounds. I mean, we have an opioid crisis that is so big that a Hollywood show Sunday night, Madam Secretary, if anyone watched it, was on the opioid crisis. That big, that's a national show, an ABC syndicated show. That's what it was about. And it's not just that. What I'm thinking, my own thought on this is that we have some excellent assets in this community. Everything from coaches, parks people, guides people, people at the Milton Arts Center, people at the library, people in the schools, SROs. Let's get them all in a room together, and because it may not be that you do everything at the kiddo library. You may use the U, and you may use, but there's some really bright minds in this community, and there's so many hardworking, not just town employees, but parents and coaches and volunteers that do so much. I just think whether that winds up being the place, now's the time to have this discussion. I think that we, as I say, some great people in this community. I think we need to really.
I agree.
Get it out and
having a think tank resource is going to be crucial, because you're right, Richie, we have so many committed people, and it's really tying it in and making it a clearinghouse of all good ideas, because the education is crucial. We've learned that. The more we educate, the more we talk about it, the less trouble will occur. And I think that having these conversations and being open about it, and really being, and being transparent to the point where we're involving students in the discussions, that's the key. And I think that, having those middle school age, as you said, starting from the younger ages with the playgrounds, and then getting them integrated into positive activities, that's what's going to steer them in the right direction. So I think this is great that we're going to have these discussions, and I think that, hopefully from having these discussions, whether it be the kid in the library or not, I think that we're long overdue to start planning, and I think as a community we have to realize that we do need a teen center, a place where good work can be accomplished under one roof.
I think it would be good, though, to continue considering Ulen for that purpose.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have to continue in many locations for this, and not just in one.
Particularly in off-ice hours. I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that the more, so if we could have 2 or 3 around town during different times or places, that's going to help us even more.
Yeah,
so,
the challenge for
it's going to take a commitment, though. We're going to have to look at, you need to have people who are able to put on these programs or to be there, who have experience. Right. That's going to be, and I think people at home need to realize that we're going to have to go down this road, that if we are to make a commitment, we're going to need to have, we're going to have to add employees, in some capacity.
Well, the challenge, too, is the rehab cost of the building, which are pretty substantial, in the millions, from what I heard from Chris at the last meeting. So it sounds like it's...
Well, if we go down that direction, there's a lot of foundation money out there that in health and wellness that can be had, for the right reasons. So, I'm anxious to hear what comes out of these meetings. And
I don't want to preclude teen center, because I do think that's an important priority, but affordable housing might also be.
Yeah, it may be.
You're absolutely right.
I just want to hear it out. You're right. You might be right.
There's a number of issues, including for affordable housing. So, but it's good that these conversations are being had now. Okay, I'm going to propose a motion to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to non-union personnel, fire chief, police chief, deputy police chief, town accountant, believing having such discussions in open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board, and to return to open session to adjourn. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Burns? Yes. We're now in executive session.